Another equally worrisome aspect of this is the intensification of competition among the energy deficit countries themselves for access to whatever supplies are available. I worry especially about the competition between the United States and China, and that's what I want to talk about for the next few minutes. The United States and China are now the number one and number two consumers and importers of oil. And in their pursuit of petroleum, the United States and China are using every means at their disposal, including all kinds of traditional forms of competition, but also increasingly what you might call unconventional means of competition. Traditional means of competition, well, let me just put this in magnitude. The United States and China are expected to be the major consumers of energy in the years ahead, and China is expected to overtake the United States to be the leading consumer of energy, all told, by 2025. But it's petroleum that I worry about, because the United States is now by far the leading consumer of petroleum and imports about 2/3 of its oil requirements. But China, which imported no oil as recently as 1993, is now overtaking Japan to be the second leading importer of petroleum, and is catching up, beginning to catch up, and will be closing in on the United States as a leading importer of oil over the next few decades. And the problem here, as the world supply of oil reaches its maximum sustainable level, as I indicated earlier, the U.S. and China will have to compete with one another worldwide for these not growing supplies. So the U.S. and China, will be the most fervent competitors worldwide. Now, I was saying that in this competition, both of us, the U.S. and China, will be using traditional means of competition, buying up blocks, buying access to blocks, development blocks when they become available, developing joint ventures with foreign oil companies, all of those traditional means. And of course, diplomatic efforts, visits by the President of the United States to the foreign oil countries, visits by Hu Jintao, who's traveled frequently to Africa and Central Asia and the Middle East in efforts to curry favor with the leadership of the foreign oil countries. But in addition to this, and what worries me so much, is both the U.S. and China are also using military means in their efforts to develop ties with these countries. Both are providing arms, military aid, military advisory services, and other forms of military assistance to these countries as part of their efforts to secure close associations with the leading oil-producing countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia. Of course, the United States has had a historic relationship with Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and the other Middle Eastern countries. Now the United States is extending these kinds of relationships to countries in Africa, especially Nigeria and Angola, and in the Caspian Sea area, in Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan in particular. But China is following in like manner, developing close military ties with Sudan, but also Angola, Nigeria, competing with the United States. China has a close military ties with Iran, and through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, of which Russia is also a member, is developing close military ties with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. And both countries are using similar types of arrangements, providing military ties to local military forces, and then increasingly follow with this military advisors and military support personnel. So there has been and is underway a sharp increase in the military presence of the United States and China in all of these regions. This is symbolized this year in Africa with the creation of the U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, the first U.S. overseas military headquarters since the Pentagon created the Central Command in 1980. And in my view, this cannot be explained other than as a reaction to growing U.S. dependence on African oil and concern about China's growing presence in the area.